everybody. Welcome to Relish. I'm Alli. I'm a nutritionist and a yoga teacher, and I'm here to talk to you about nutrition related topics every week. So welcome to the show. I will be talking about sumac today, focusing on another spice. We've talked about cinnamon, we've talked about ginger, we've talked about turmeric, and this week we're talking sumac, which I'm really excited to talk about because I haven't cooked with it a ton, but I have dabbled with it here and there. So we have two recipes today that use sumac, and I'm really excited. So please put any questions or comments that you might have down in the chat section. I love interacting with everybody during the show. So please join in, ask me questions, put in comments. We'll talk sumac, and so we're basically going to talk about the history, a little background, a little bit of health information. We're going to do two recipes. So I'm just going to tell you the beginning part of one of the recipes we're going to have is a beverage, and I'm going to take a sip of it right now. Sumac lemonade, which is delicious. And then we are also going to be making, it's a really long title, so I had to put it in front of me so I could remember everything, or so that I could read it. It's called quinoa salad with dried tart cherries, mint, and feta in a lemon sumac vinaigrette recipe, which you can find on relish.com. I think it's going to be really good. I have a couple of alterations that I've made to the recipe just for my own tastes. So you're welcome to do the same or follow the recipe completely. But anyway, let's start with sumac. Then I'll talk about the recipes. Then we'll make them. Then we'll enjoy them. And then that'll be the end of the show. So let's start off. So sumac is a spice made from berries that are purplish reddish pink. And these berries grow in a bush, and they are then removed from the bush, dehydrated, made into a powder, and that is the spice. And it is such an interesting spice because it has like a sour, tangy flavor. A lot of people use it in place of lemon. And we're going to kind of go into this in more detail, but I just wanted to give you a big overview of what it is. I was showing you all what it looks like before the show started, but I want to show you again. So it kind of looks like paprika or cayenne, but it has a very interesting flavor. Kind of sour, kind of a sour smell, And you know how, I don't know if you all get this, but I get this. If I smell something like a Sour Patch Kid or like a sour candy, it makes me salivate just thinking about having it. It kind of gives me that same that same feeling when I smell it. So, sumac. Okay, so it comes from berries. It's up for debate if they're technically berries or not, but they look like berries. But I read on one site, they were like, well, it's not really a berry, but we'll just call it a berry. Other sites just call it berry. So we'll call it, for the sake of that, we'll call it sumac berries. And it comes from a sumac plant. There are a lot of different varieties of sumac, which is interesting. Only a few of them, or maybe even one, is edible, which is the kind that you will find as the spice. But it's used kind of in place of lemon juice or in addition to lemon juice. Today we're making a dressing with lemon juice and sumac, so it's going to be super tangy and delicious. But so many different uses. So let's just jump right in. Okay, we've got the berries. And sumac it's in the same family as the cashew family. And I also read the same family as the mango family. So, and it's typically grown in temperate subtropical zones. So pretty, I'll tell you where it's grown. And it's considered a shrub. And some sites say that it originated in Turkey. Other sites say Africa. So it's probably somewhere in one of those countries or both. And it is also cultivated in southern Italy and Sicily. And there are also varieties in Britain, but those are more ornamental and not edible. So it's kind of in the Middle Eastern area. It's also grown, oh, here we go. It's also grown in the Middle East, particularly in northern Iran. And it's used in cooking in a lot of Middle Eastern countries. It's used in cooking in Iran, Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, and Sicily. Sicily, we know, is more Mediterranean. And I thought this was interesting. I read that I have not been to any Middle Eastern country, but there was a page that I looked at that said that there are shakers of sumac on restaurant tables in Middle Eastern countries because it's just such a prominent spice. It's also used in the spice mixture called za'atar, which I do have that as well. Za'atar is sumac, oregano, thyme, sesame seeds, and salt, and it is delicious. And you will find this in Middle Eastern and Mediterranean dishes as well. A lot of times it's sprinkled on top of a flatbread or sprinkled on top of hummus, and it just has that like nice earthy, herbal, tangy taste. So if you have a chance to buy some za'atar, it is so good. People put it in dressings. So the base of this is sumac as well. Really, really good. So let's get back to the talk of sumac. So apparently Sicilian sumac is considered to be the best flavored version of sumac. I know it grows and is sold in a lot of other different countries, but that is kind of the overwhelming agreement that the Sicilian sumac is the best, or the most flavorful. But yes, there are also poisonous sumac bushes, so those are to be avoided. But if you're buying sumac in the store, probably best to just do that rather than going out and foraging your own. Probably like most other spices as well. But it's really important that, yes, you know where it's coming from. But yeah, if it's in the store, it's totally fine. It's edible. It's a very popular spice. So let's see. So historically, sumac has been used for so many different things. So cooking, it's been used as a dye just because it's so red and such a nice color and a natural dye. It's used in medicines, in beverages like this beverage here. I'm going to drink it again. That's good. And a spice majorly used in Middle Eastern cuisine. I also found out that the plants are grown as soil binders and cover plants as well because they are a really beautiful plant. And it's known for its tart lemony flavor, and that comes from malic acid, which gives it that tangy flavor. It's not quite as tangy as lemon or vinegar, but definitely has some tang. And typically is like either sweetened or added with other spices like the za'atar. I've sprinkled sumac on top of hummus before too. Some sumac and the za'atar. But this is interesting too, that the sumac berries have like a velvet-like hair on them, and apparently the tartness comes from the hair. And most of the flavor comes from the surface of the skin. And so when they're harvesting them, they harvest them when they're fully ripe, the berries. When they're fully ripe, they're dark reddish purple. And they typically harvest them before a big rainy season begins because the rain tends to wash off all the flavor from the hairs and the outside of the skin. So they harvest them beforehand, and then they let them dry, and then they grind them into the powder, which is very delicious. And that provides a sour flavor. Apparently, historically, the Romans used sumac juice and powder as a souring agent before lemons were introduced into that culture. Kind of the same flavor, different plant, different berry, different fruit, I guess. So in modern times, yes, it's used mostly in Middle Eastern cuisine, but it's kind of moved over into other cultures as well because we're using it here and in other countries as well. But also some other countries that use it are Syria and northern Iraq. I also found out that going back a little bit, once the berries are dried and ground, it does have kind of a gritty flavor or a gritty texture, which when we make the lemonade, or when I tell you about the lemonade that I made, I'll explain that a little bit more. But it does have a pretty gritty texture. I don't know if you can really tell that from the video, but it does. Yes, but it's used for acidity, brightness, color to many dishes, and oh yeah, here's some other dishes that it's used for. It's used on maybe like as a rub for grilled meats and vegetables. It's used with grains. It's used with baked goods. It's used with desserts. Today we're going to be making a quinoa salad with a dressing with it. And I don't know, one of the sources that I read said that the powder doesn't have a very strong aroma, but I think it really does. It smells really good. I really recommend trying this. So if you have a store with a lot of bulk spices and herbs and spices and teas and things like that, it's very likely that you'll find it there. I got this sumac from World Market. They have so many good spices. But I know places like Whole Foods or like your local health food store would very likely have it. And for sure, you can find it on websites like Amazon or like the Penzeys Spices or any kind of spice website. So it's fairly easy to find. Definitely online. It'll be easy to find, and stores as well. So just a little FYI, not as common as finding things like, basil and oregano and things like that, but it's becoming more and more popular in the United States. So a little bit easier to find than it used to be. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break from information and talk about the sumac lemonade. So I read about the sumac lemonade on so many different websites, and I thought it was so interesting. So it's basically a lemonade, but it doesn't have the lemons in it because it's just sumac. But you can top it with lemon juice. So basically what you do, here I'm going to show you what I did, is I know a couple weeks ago when we did ginger, I made those cocktails with the ginger simple syrup. Well, this is sumac simple syrup. So basically you do 1 part water, 1 part sugar. I did 1 part water, 1 part maple syrup. So that does give it a very specific flavor. But I just wanted to use something that wasn't sugar. I mean, maple syrup is sweet and sugary, but not processed sugar. So make a simple syrup, boil it, let the sugar dissolve, take it off the heat, add sumac. So the dimensions for the recipe I looked at, I did a 1/4 or an 1/8 of what it suggested, but 2 cups water, 2 cups sugar, 3 tablespoons of ground sumac. So what I did was a 1/4 cup of water, a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, a teaspoon of sumac. And then you just let it sit, and then you let it cool, and then you pour it through a fine mesh strainer because of that grit that I was talking about before. It does kind of stick around. So then you get this really good simple syrup. Then you fill your glass. I'm going to refill my glass just to show the whole process. You fill your glass with sparkly water. And you can put ice. I typically don't, but you can. And a spoonful, let's see what it says in the recipe that I used. Like a tablespoon. Yeah, tablespoon of the simple syrup. I'm just going to do a spoonful. Okay. Spoonful. Give it a stir. And then you can add a squeeze of lemon as well. And it's like a refreshing beverage. So, sumac lemonade. Okay, so let's move forward into the health information about sumac. There isn't a ton, some ingredients I talk about, and they have so many health benefits. But sumac had like a little bit, but that's okay because it's still delicious and good. It's their health benefits, but just less. So sumac is not a high source of vitamin C as you may think, just because it has that lemony flavor. I did find out that it is a misconception, but it's not super high in vitamin C. But yeah, like in comparison to like oranges or cabbage, like this is just a little bit of the math. But per 100 grams of, for example, sumac, 3.9 milligrams has vitamin C. So that's a very small percentage. Oranges have a lot more. Cabbage has a lot more per 100 grams. So that's okay. There's a touch, but it's not known for having a lot of vitamin C. But over 2,000 years ago, there was a Greek physician who referred to sumac's health properties in his medical book, and he mostly said that it was a great astringent, a great antiseptic, and made a good tonic and made a good lemonade. So that was interesting. That was about 2,000 years ago. And back then, they also found that feverish patients were said to have benefited from the cooling properties of sumac. So that's interesting. But in modern times now, sumac is mostly known for having antioxidant components to it. So it does have things like tannins and anthocyanins and flavonoids. So it does have the antioxidant qualities. And we all know, I feel like I'm always talking about antioxidants just because they're so good for us. So we have all those free radicals out in the world, in the food we eat, in the environment we put ourselves into, and it's great to have the antioxidants to get rid of those free radicals, keep us healthy. So they're good sources, sumac is a good source of antioxidant, and also some studies have shown that it could be a great anti-inflammatory, particularly for inflammatory illnesses like heart disease and cancer. They have found that it could be helpful for that. So anti-inflammatory. And also they found that it could be helpful. I found some sources saying it could be helpful for managing blood sugar levels for people with type 2 diabetes. And also in the whole spirit of inflammation and all of that, they said that it could be helpful for pain relief from like muscle aches and pains. So there was a study where they gave 40 healthy people a sumac beverage or a placebo beverage, and for the relief of muscle pain. And after 4 weeks, the group that had the sumac beverage reported having much less muscle pain, exercise-induced muscle pain. And also, they found that the people that had the sumac beverage had a lot more circulating antioxidants in their blood. So that was pretty cool. I would be curious what the sumac beverage was. I don't know if it was like a lemonade like this or what the beverage was, but regardless, they were having sumac, did some good things for their muscles, did some good things for their circulating antioxidants. So I thought that was interesting. And then, let's see, the last but not least piece of information about sumac, and then we're going to make this delicious quinoa salad, is that just potential hazards of consuming sumac. There aren't a whole lot of them, but if you are allergic to cashews or mangoes, you may want to not consume sumac because they're all in the same family, or get tested, find out what if there is a risk. And also, like I mentioned before, probably don't forage your own sumac. Just buy it from the grocery store, then you know it's safe. And there isn't a whole lot of research out there on like taking it therapeutically, like as a supplement. So talk to your doctor about that, about taking sumac as a supplement. Really just try to enjoy it in your food because it's so good. So now that we're onto the food component, let's get cooking. Well, I guess more assembling. Let's get assembling. So we are going to be making, I have my recipe right here. I'm going to put it on the wall like I usually do. Okay, so I'll say the title again because it's a long one. Quinoa salad with dried tart cherries, mint, and feta in a lemon sumac vinaigrette. So we're going to make the vinaigrette first. Then we're going to assemble all the other ingredients. I already have all the ingredients together. We're just going to put it into a salad. Okay. So I wanted to use a clear bowl so I could just show you what the dressing looks like. So here we go. All right, so we're going to start off with, I'm going to move this cutting board. It's kind of taking up space there. Okay, so juice from 2 lemons. Hey, Kelly. Oh, good to know. Oh, yeah, I know. I thought of you. Because Kelly's family has a nut allergy, so that's good to know. But yes, it would be interesting because it's such a small amount. I don't know if it would affect people with nut allergies or not. So good piece of information to know. Okay. Lemon juice. Okay. Juice from 2 lemons. I have my fancy lemon juicer here, or sometimes we call it the lemon squeezer at our house. Okay. And it's just so efficient. And then you don't have to worry about like the seeds really getting in. It's really nice. I highly recommend it. And this kind has like a little piece where you can put a lime in it too because it's smaller. So, okay. All right. Okay. Juice from 2 lemons. And now we have a teaspoon of red wine vinegar. We've got that right here in this dish. And 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, EVOO, as some people say. I haven't measured that out yet, but we can measure it together. 1/4 cup. All right. And 2 garlic cloves that have been minced, which I have a giant clove of garlic. Like, I already minced it, and this is just some of it. It was huge, so I'm just doing 1. We love garlic in our house, but I think 1 large versus 2 medium, pretty comparable. And a teaspoon, oh yes, a teaspoon of sumac. I have not measured that yet because we have the sumac over here. So a teaspoon of sumac. And 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. I'm doing maple syrup again. I'm kind of in the maple syrup mood today. And salt and pepper. So a little twist of salt, little twist of pepper. Okay, and then we've got a fork, and we're just gonna whisk this dressing together. It smells really good, I've gotta say. Nice and fresh. I just love that lemony smell too. So we get the lemony smell from the lemons and from the sumac, but it is really pretty. You can see all the garlic in there too. But yeah, see the grittiness of the sumac? Okay. There's the dressing. Okay. Then, now I'll tell you about the variations that I've done. So, what goes in the salad is quinoa. All right. So, I will pour some quinoa into here. I did red quinoa. You can do any kind. It comes in white, it comes in red, it comes in tricolor. So any of those. So we've got our quinoa. And we've got, okay. Oh yes, 1/3 cup of chopped dried tart cherries. I decided to use raisins instead. just because a lot of times the dried tart cherries have sugar added and I don't really want that. So we're using raisins. Okay, we've got raisins. And, oh yes, 1/3 of a cup of pomegranate seeds, which I was really excited because I just bought a pomegranate. So I covered my white shirt and got the seeds out of the pomegranate. That could be a whole other episode on how to take the seeds out of a pomegranate. So I'm going to put some pomegranate seeds on top there. So good. I love the pomegranate. And 1/4 of a cup of mint. So we still have fresh mint in our garden, which is really great. And 1/4 of a cup of fresh parsley. And then, and then feta, which I don't see on this list, but okay. And then a sprinkle of feta on top. I'm using queso fresco because that's what we have at our house. I'll just go ahead and sprinkle it because we like queso fresco. So it looks just like feta. And we're more of a queso fresco. I mean, we like feta too, but we kind of always have queso fresco in our house. And then you put the dressing on top and give it a little stir. Delicious. So we've got our sumac lemonade. We've got our quinoa salad with a sumac lemon dressing. It's a sumac kind of night. So yeah, give it a try. It's a fun spice. It's just, something new and different to add into your spice repertoire, into your spice cabinet. And yeah, it's known for being an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, possibly good for diabetes or for muscle pain and aches. So give it a try. Mostly a Middle Eastern, Mediterranean spice. So you can try it with a lot of those types of dishes like hummus or flatbread or salad dressing, or use it as a rub with some other flavors for meats or vegetables. So yeah, it's delicious. Let me get the sumac again. Here we go. And it smells really good. So that concludes our show for today. Thank you all so much for being here. It's been fun as always. Thank you for the comments, Kelly. And see you all next time. Hope you have a great evening, a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.